pleasant good afternoon. Welcome back to Congress Place Sophia, the headquarters of the People's National Congress Reform. We have some breaking updates to bring to you at this time. As reported in the last update, region number 1 completed exhausted their voters, the list of eligible voters, and they are now in the counting process. We also received report that Region 8, Madhya, as reported earlier, would have exhausted their list of eligible voters, and that region has proceeded into their count. And of course, the information from that count has been transmitted to the CEO, the Chief Elections Officer, Mr. Vincent Alexander. More updates for you at this time. We received reports that Region 9, that is Lethem would have exhausted their list of eligible voters, and they are now in the counting process for that region. Reports emanating from Regions 5 and Region 6 states that the vote is at 65% of their list is almost completed, and Georgetown, we have a report of 52% of their list thus far has been exhausted. As we reported to you earlier, the voting process started at 11 a.m. this morning and it runs until 7 p.m. this evening. However, if a regional location has exhausted their list, they can proceed in the count. But if they have not exhausted the list, those polling stations has to remain open until 7 p.m. this evening. That is part of the electoral rule as set aside by Mr. Vincent Alexander, the Chief Elections Officer, who is conducting these elections. As we mentioned to you before, on completion of all of the region, the tabulation and the count will be done at the place of poll. That information will then be transmitted to Mr. Vincent Alexander, the Chief Elections Officer, who will then make the final declaration, which is expected to be had sometime after the 9 p.m. hour this evening. All right, so we continue to monitor the various locations. As we mentioned to you, the PNCR is hosting their 21st Biannual Delegates Congress. And of course, all of this is history in the making. This is indeed one of the most historic biannual delegates Congress being hosted not only by the PNCR, but a political party in Guyana. For the first time, there's 13 remote locations across the length and breadth of this country, which also includes the North American region of the PNC, which comprise Canada and the United States. Those delegates in Canada and the United States are voting remotely. Those votes have been transmitted to the Chief Elections Officer by way of email, and of course at final count this afternoon, those results from the North American region, Canada and the United States, will also be made public, and we're still awaiting an update in terms of the percentage of persons that would have cast their votes from the North American region of the PNCR. There's still reports coming in from region number 2. They are reporting now that they have exhausted 65% of their list of eligible delegates, 65%, so region 2 still have a way to go. And of course, we have region 4, which has 4 locations, one on the east bank of Demerara in the village of Agricola. There is Georgetown, which is voting at Congress Place, Sophia, and they are the 2 locations on the east coast of Demerara. And we're still awaiting to get percentage from those regions as it relates to how much of their list has been exhausted. Just a quick recap for those of you joining the broadcast for the first time. At 9 a.m. this morning, the People's National Congress Reform started its 21st Biannual Delegates Congress. The Congress was addressed by Party Chairman Valda Lawrence, and of course the party internal information, the leader address, and of course the General Secretary report, which was all done internally, transmitted via FaceTime and of course the Zoom platform to the 13 remote locations and of course the North American region of the PNC. At 11 a.m. this morning, Mr. Vincent Alexander, the Chief Elections Officer, took over the proceedings and declared all offices vacant and give consent or permission for the regions to commence the vote process. That process runs from 11 a.m. this morning to 7 p.m. this evening. And just a quick recap, regions 8, 9, 1 have completed or exhausted their list of eligible voters, and they have now proceeded to the count at the place of poll. Madhya, Region 8, has completed that count, and that information has since been transmitted to the Chief Elections Officer, Mr. Vincent Alexander. Regions 9 and 1 are still currently in the count process. The other regions' report emanating from those indicate 65, 55, 45, 57, 62, and 81% respectively have exhausted those lists in those respective locations. We will continue to bring you updates and information as they unfold in real time. And just for the benefit of those of you viewing this program via Facebook, essentially the platform has all of the remote location in real time, and all of the PNCR's delegates across the length and breadth of Guyana and the North American region are all viewing all of the locations simultaneously in real time, including the count that are happening at those locations are all being viewed via Zoom platform, and all of the party delegates, members, candidates have consent and they have access to view all of this in real time as it unfolds in those regions. Right? All right, so it is expected that polls will be closed at 7 p.m. this evening. And of course, we'll try to get an update from Mr. Vincent Alexander himself so he could apprise the general public in terms of the process throughout the day once the polls are closed at 7 p.m. This evening. We'll ask the operator just quickly to run a feed and show you some updates from earlier today in terms of what transpired at the various locations. The file of footage that you're looking at there is from Congress Place, Sophia, earlier today. And of course, this was when the polls were just open. So you see large number of persons who were queuing in. And of course, those lines have since reduced because of the sheer volume of persons that was processed and voted and left the auditorium since then. But of course, the list has not been exhausted. So the Georgetown polling station will remain open until 7 p.m. this evening, which will permit all of the eligible delegates an opportunity to cast a vote. And of course, that is being repeated in all of the locations across the country, including the North American region of the PNC. All right, so that's the update we have for you at this time. We will be back with you at 7, if not a bit later, to bring you all of the updates from the respective region. In closing again, regions 8, 9, and 1 have exhausted their list of eligible delegates. Region 8 have completed their count, and those information have since been transmitted to Mr. Vincent Alexander, the Chief Elections Officer for these elections. Regions 9 and 1 have exhausted their list of eligible delegates who would have cast the vote, and those two regions are currently in the count process that is happening. 45, 57, 67, 81, and 72% respectively are the reports that we're getting from the various regions in terms of the total amount percentage-wise of their lists of eligible delegates that have been exhausted then. All right, until 7 p.m. this evening, or a little bit later than that, my name is Christopher Jones, coming to you live from Congress Place, Sophia, the PNCR's headquarters, as we continue to bring you the update and information as it relates to the 21st Biannual Delegates Congress being hosted in a hybrid system, 13 remote locations across Guyana, including the North American chapter of the PNC, which includes Canada and the United States. We look forward to seeing you right back here at 7 p.m., if not a bit later. My name is Christopher Jones. Thank you for joining. Until then, goodbye for now.